This week will be very, very interesting. That's the feeling across the market right now. Because after weeks of things being kind of quiet, everything just got really complicated. And it happened fast. So, what we're going to do today is break down a crypto market that's, well, it's being pulled in two totally different directions. You've got these really bullish technical signals screaming that a huge breakout is happening, but then, bam, a geopolitical shockwave comes out of nowhere, creating just massive uncertainty for, pretty much all risk assets. So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll cover what just happened, the two big events that shook things up. Then, we'll dive into the charts and see what the data is really telling us. After that, we'll unpack that whole geopolitical situation, and we'll wrap up with the key signals you're going to want to watch this week. All right, let's jump right in. What exactly happened? Well, over the weekend, two stories broke that seemed totally unrelated, but together, they've created what you could call a perfect storm of conflicting signals for traders. So think of it like this. In one corner, you've got this classic, beautiful, bullish breakout. Bitcoin finally just smashed through a price ceiling that it just could not beat for weeks. But then, in the other corner, you have this huge international event unfolding, throwing a massive wrench of uncertainty into, well, all global markets. And that right there is the core conflict we're digging into. And this number, 91,200, it's a big one. I mean, for almost a month, the market was just hitting its head against that $90,000 wall. So holding strong above it, well, that's a huge deal from a technical point of view. It really suggests the bulls might finally be taking over. But, and this is the big question, is it enough to fight off all the bad news? Yeah, to answer that, we really have to look a lot closer at what the charts themselves are telling us. So let's do that. Let's peel back the layers and get into the nitty-gritty of the technicals behind this whole move. Okay, so one of the key tools analysts are pointing to is something called a liquidity heat map. The easiest way to think about it is like a treasure map for traders. It shows you exactly where these big pockets of buy and sell orders are sitting, waiting. And what happened? The price surge went right to this huge cluster of sell orders sitting around $91,000 and just wiped them out. It's like the market was a heat-seeking missile and it hit its target perfectly. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. There's this internal conflict happening right inside Bitcoin's chart. You'll see this word divergence pop up. So what's that? It's basically when the price is doing one thing, but a momentum indicator is doing the exact opposite. And that's often a big hint that a reversal is coming. So on the short term, you've got this bullish divergence, which suggests, hey, we could see more upside. But then you zoom out to the weekly chart, and you see this massive bearish divergence flashing bright red, warning that this whole thing might just be a temporary bounce before a bigger drop. So what this table does is lay out the specific battlegrounds for the biggest players in the market right now. For Bitcoin, the big fight is to stay above that 85 to 86K support zone, and then try to punch through that heavy resistance up toward 94K. And you can see it's a similar tug of war playing out for Ethereum and Solana at their own key price levels. So here's the kicker. Even while Bitcoin is flexing its muscles, a lot of the other major coins, they're starting to look a little tired. You can see Ethereum is flashing a new short-term bearish divergence, which hints its upward momentum is fading. And XRP, well, its long-term chart is still looking pretty bearish. It kind of suggests that the strength across the entire market, it isn't quite there yet. But look, the charts can't tell us everything, right? Not even close. So now we have to shift our focus to the other side of this equation, the huge geopolitical events creating this massive wave of uncertainty, and it's all centered on Venezuela. So according to the reports we're seeing, a strike was carried out in Venezuela, and a key point is that it was supposedly done without congressional approval. This then reportedly led to the capture of President Maduro and his wife. And following that, the U.S. government supposedly announced it would be running the country for the time being. I mean, this is a really fast-moving, really complex situation, and the potential implications are just huge. And this quote from Senator Marco Rubio, it really gets to the heart of why global markets are watching this so closely. He said he expects U.S. oil companies to be interested in starting operations in Venezuela. You just can't ignore the economic angle here, especially when it comes to one of the world's most valuable commodities. And let's be clear why this matters so much. Venezuela is sitting on some of the largest oil reserves on the entire planet, not to mention huge deposits of gold and other minerals. So any big shift in who's in control there could send absolute shockwaves through commodity markets. Now you might be asking, okay, why does this matter for crypto? Well, think about it. When there's major global instability, investors get scared. They often flee to what they see as safe haven assets, or they just pull back from more speculative markets like crypto. and that could hit valuations hard. Okay, so you've got a bullish technical setup on one hand and a geopolitical powder keg on the other. It's a real standoff. So, what signals should we be watching to figure out which one of these stories is going to win out? And just to make things even more interesting, as if we needed it, we also have a really heavy week of economic data coming up. We're going to get key reports on the U.S. labor market all week, and it all leads up to the big one on Friday, the official U.S. jobs report. This thing is a major indicator of economic health, and it can heavily influence what the Fed decides to do with interest rates. So yeah, any surprises here could absolutely tip the scales one way or the other. So this really brings it all together, doesn't it? The short-term chart signals, they're leaning positive. The whole geopolitical situation is just this massive, unpredictable wild card. And that incoming macro data, it could either pour fuel on this rally or stop it dead in its tracks. And that leaves us right here with the ultimate question. You have a market that is caught between a clean technical breakout and some really messy global turmoil. So, which signal will it follow next? Which story are traders going to believe? The answer to that question is going to set the stage for the next major move for the entire market. Believe me, we'll be watching.